MyPHL17 presents InFocus, a look at the issues affecting the Philadelphia region. Now your host, Steve Highsmith.
The Civil War, the war between the states, formally ended 150 years ago. Hundreds of thousands of Americans died. Slavery was defeated, the Union preserved. This war happened on large battlefields such as Gettysburg and in smaller battles or skirmishes. For many years, some of these battles have been reenacted in Bensalem, Bucks County. Good morning, I'm Steve Highsmith and welcome to InFocus. Later in the program, empowering women for success. But we begin with the Civil War and William Rodman and Charles Gilson of the Neshaminy Civil War Reenactment. Thanks for being here, both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate
How are
it.
you today?
I'm doing fine. William, why reenactment? What do you like about it?
I've been a Civil War nut, for want of a better term, since I was a kid. And I actually got involved with reenacting about 25 years ago. I went to an event as a spectator and found out I really enjoyed it, got talking to people. Next thing I know, I was buying equipment.
Same story for you, Charles?
Yeah, basically I had a neighbor who did it, talked me into coming out for a day, accoutered me up, and my first event was in Neshaminy. And did it and was hooked.
And it's not just a case of going out there and playing, though. You actually are historians. I mean, you study these battles that go on and you try to educate as well as impart something else that just can't be found in the book. And we're going to talk about that for just a little bit. But how do you go about doing this? So this is the 26th reenactment coming up. You've done more than 2 decades, each of you, in this. Different battles every year. So for this battle, Charles, how do you prepare?
We look at the year. Each year we progress through the years. This is the 5th year, so we focus on battles that happened that would have taken place at that time, and then we start to pick scenarios that would sort of fit the area that we're using for the reenactment, and just keep narrowing it down until we come up with one that works.
We'll talk in detail about this battle in a few moments, but let's talk about Neshaminy, first of all. This takes place in Neshaminy State Park. And there are no battles that took place in Neshaminy State Park.
No.
But this is a huge 330-acre tract. It's where the Neshaminy Creek basically meets the Delaware River. And it's a nice tract of land to do this on. And it's now become one of the largest reenactments and best attended and most respected in the East.
The event started, and really the major thing has not changed. It started out as a way to get funds for historical preservation. And it has continued to that for the 25 years that we've been doing it. Every year we donate all the surplus money that it takes above and beyond what it costs us to put on the event to various preservation organizations.
How many people take part in the event, or you anticipate will?
Our high point, we've had 1,200 military and civilian reenactors. Average is between 800 and 900.
How do you feel when you're out there? What's that like?
You feel like you're going back in time. We do a tactical where it's commander against commander. You never know what you're coming up against. You come around a corner and there could be a line of Confederates looking at you down their barrels. So it's an interesting feeling.
And so you don't really know what's going to happen. You know how the battle played out, but again, the timing matters. And this event coming up is over 2 days, and as we look at a couple of the past reenactments that have taken place, so you have this anticipation. As I would imagine, every minute goes by, you are more immersed in what you think is the feeling of that era. How's it for you?
Well, there's 2 different types of scenarios that we do. One is, as Chuck said, a tactical, which is you don't know how it's going to come out.
Yeah.
The other is what we call a scripted scenario. That's where we do our level best to reenact a particular battle that took place. My joke is we try to fit in all the mistakes that the real soldiers made without making any of our own.
How do you decide who does what, though? Who dies, who gets wounded, who keeps fighting?
It's usually up to the individual. In the heat of the summer, if you're exhausted and you need a break, you'll take a hit. If your ammunition's low, you can take a hit. And then when you've recovered a little bit, you can sort of sneak back in. And
Well, what type of weaponry do you use? How real are these guns, these rifles that you're using?
you can live fire with them. They're .58 caliber. We go to the range a couple times a year and do live firing with them.
Yeah, they are real weapons. They're not toys. The only difference between what we do and the real soldiers is we leave that 500 grains of lead out.
Yes.
You know, we just fire the black powder.
Yeah.
And how long does it take to reload something like that?
You can get off about, using the real ammunition, about 2 rounds a minute. It takes about 30 seconds to load the weapon. Firing the blanks, it can be a little faster because you don't have to worry about ramming the lead ball down the barrel.
Do you try to reenact that order of combat that goes on? And did it change over the 4 or 5 years of the war? Did you, for example, is it a case of where there was a solid line that fired, and then as soon as that one fired, another one came forward and fired while the others were reloading? Or did that start to break down as the war went on?
Go ahead.
It would start to break down as the war was coming to an end. But for the most part, they stuck to the Napoleonic tactics, which was one line firing at the same time. They felt that was where the power was.
On the defense, things changed as the war went along. Early in the war, the 2 lines would just stand there and shoot at each other from a couple hundred yards away. As the war went on, the defensive side would dig entrenchments, and that really started around the period of Gettysburg. And from then on to the rest of the war, if you were on the defense, if at all possible, you were behind dirt one way or another.
Well, what was interesting about what you just said, though, you're doing the reenactment of the Petersburg campaign, basically, and that was a period from June of '64 through March 20-something, 25th or so of '65, correct? Right. A couple of weeks before the surrender at Appomattox, and this was a pivotal point in the war that broke General Lee, correct?
Right.
Yes.
So in that offensive, if my memory is correct, General Grant used trench warfare. He dug a lot of trenches. Now, so are you digging any trenches in the park?
Not allowed.
We're not allowed to dig trenches.
We do have restrictions.
Is we will drag underbrush and so forth up in place to simulate the trench works that they would have had. There's one line of entrenchments that we often use that have been there for probably 20 years.
Yes.
We keep rebuilding them every year.
And when you get new folks coming in to be in your ranks in the reenactment, what's their first reaction? Because I don't know if you remember your first reaction, but what was
I do.
You do?
My first reaction was at that time they allowed mountain howitzers, and we were in the back doing the tactical, and I came around the corner in formation, and here's this little tiny mountain howitzer looking right at me, and they pulled the string and this thing fired, and it's like, oh my God.
I think, that's one of the things. This is a pleasant time, and you're doing something to try to recognize a part of American life that really happened. But the actual events that you're portraying are horrible.
True.
And do you have that sense when you're out there of that horror that takes place?
It kind of depends on your own mindset at that particular time. A while back, the largest reenactment that ever took place was the 135th Gettysburg. And there was about 25,000 reenactors there. I would point out to the spectators that every single person that you saw on that field at the end of 3 days was either killed or wounded.
Yeah.
And it can really hit you sometimes when you look at it that way.
Well, this is the 26th reenactment, and it's in Neshaminy State Park, and it's coming up, and it's on April 25th and 26th, and it's in Bensalem Township, Pennsylvania, right along the Delaware River and the Neshaminy Creek. We'll have more information as we continue, more on what you can expect at this year's reenactment in particular, ahead on InFocus on PHL17. Stay tuned. Back on In Focus, I'm Steve Highsmith. Each year, some dedicated Philadelphia area residents raise awareness about one of the pivotal moments in American history. It's the Civil War reenactment in Bensalem. With me are William Rodman and Charles Gilson, both of the Neshaminy Civil War reenactment. Thank you again both for being here. What do you do when you're not doing this? Chuck?
I'm a CNC machinist. I work up in Hatfield for a company, and that's my 9-to-5 job, and the rest of the time I work with the Neshaminy.
And William, you are retired now?
I'm retired, yeah. My joke is every day is now Saturday.
Okay. And you were in sales before that, right?
I was in sales,
Lumber industry,
yes.
I guess?
Yes.
Well, so when you guys are out there reenacting, and folks are taking it pretty seriously, and whether it's the tactical, which is kind of ad-libbing to a certain extent from the battle that took place, or you're doing the actual, what you know history writes about that battle and how it unfolded, it's taken very seriously. So when folks are on the ground, do they try to also capture the sounds of what's going on? Do you have guys moaning? Are people coming in to try to take them off the battlefield? How does that work?
No, we have people that you'll see them crawling across the ground as though they're wounded. Some will moan, some will cry for mom. Each reenactor tries to do his best to portray the period.
William, get any ticks out of this experience?
Yeah.
You get lots and lots of ticks out of this experience, yes. That's a standard
Well, I
part of the
think,
game.
on a serious note, though, that what men on both sides went through in this war, the hunger, the sickness, if they were wounded, what would be saved today would not be saved then. The illness towards the end of the war, throughout the war, so many died of illness, often battle-related, but sometimes not. And all of that is part of the mental state and physical conditions of the soldiers that were fighting on these days that you reenact.
Yeah. They didn't know anything about disease or control. They would put latrines upstream from where soldiers would be getting their drinking water. So you'd have
You don't
all
reenact that, do you?
No, no. So you'd have all sorts of diseases coming from that.
Roughly twice as many men died of disease than were killed by enemy action.
In the reenactment, what do you recommend to anybody that goes to watch it? Because it's in a big open field or not in a field. Maybe we saw trees there, it's moving around. I mean, what's the best thing to take or to expect to unfold throughout the day? Do you plan on being there for hours?
You can be there for hours. The camps are open to the public, so the camps are set up the way they were at that time. We have civilian camps. Civilians would follow the troops. So there's a civilian camp. They do everything. They cook the way they would have. We cook on open fires. There's a lot to see. There's a lot to do. So you can spend a day there very easily.
We've always, well, go ahead, William.
Yeah, part of it is what's your interest as a spectator to come and visit, and how deeply you are interested in the Civil War. You know, somebody who's very interested might be very interested in watching our movements on the field in terms of using the drills and so forth that were used during the Civil War. Other people, that might not be so interesting to them.
Now, we've always heard about the rebel yell. Do you do the rebel yell when you're out there?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
We practice that. There actually are some tapes of real Civil War Confederate soldiers doing the yell, and we've been able to copy that.
And so you don't have to have a Southern accent to do it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is there a Union yell?
No, not really.
So there was no countering, no
no.
yelling back?
No. At the end of a battle, they'd yell "Huzzah," which is their cheer. If they took the day, but going into a battle, they would.
What's your understanding of how the average soldier felt about the officers that were leading them? William, you're laughing more than
That depended an awful lot on the officer. You know, when you read the books.
You're a colonel, so.
Yeah, when you read the books. I'm a colonel at this event. When you read the books, the soldiers had a lot of different feelings about their officers. Some they respected, some not so much.
And as a major, are you worried about?
Oh, definitely. Union had a lot of problems with officers. They had officers that shouldn't have been in command. The Confederates always seemed to have better leadership. It took a while for Grant to come into play. Before that, they went through a number of major generals leading the Army before they found Grant, who was able to make a move. The most notorious was McClellan. He built this humongous army, but wouldn't use it. He was always afraid that he was outnumbered, even though, in fact, he might have outnumbered the Confederates 3-1. He always had the mindset that his enemies outnumbered him, and he wouldn't fight.
Well, the population of the North was significantly higher than the population of the South and could draw on more people to fight.
Mm-hmm. And they had the industrialization, too, for supplying the war.
Do you have any suggestions for anyone who wants to join your ranks, that wants to come out and begin reenactment?
I would suggest that if you're interested in doing it, come to the reenactment, visit the camps,
Yeah. Talk to your units.
talk to the people that are there, find a group that is that interests you. The different groups tend to have their own way of doing things, and your culture might
history
be
comes to
different.
life, and that's an amazing thing that you do. The history really comes to life in what you're doing. Is it a one-day commitment, though, or if you get involved, or is it a moving target? You can get more involved or less involved depending on.
Yeah, it depends on the person.
All right.
We start planning Neshaminy in September, and it goes all the way up until April, and then there's a couple months rest, and come September again, you're gearing up, starting to think, all right, what are we going to do this year? What can we do better?
Well, for folks that want to get involved, they can go on a website in the Neshaminy State Park, and they can go and look up reenactment, and they can figure out what to do. The best way is to do NeshaminyCWEvent.org, CW for Civil War, of course, NeshaminyCWEvent.org, or you can check them out on Facebook as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thanks for reenacting. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Chuck, thank you. William?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Up next, empowering women for success with Wings for Success in a moment on PHL 17. InFocus continues on PHL 17. I'm Steve Highsmith. Can you get the part if you don't look the part? If you are going for a good job but feel you don't have the clothes to match, will you fail at the interview? There is an organization based in Chester County that has been helping women get the part. With me right now is Patricia Marich, board member of Wings for Success. Hi, Patricia. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Wings for Success has been helping a lot of women. How do you do it?
Wings for Success provides confidence for women in the workplace, essentially dressing them to succeed.
And how do you go about doing that? How do you find the women, or the women find you who need the help?
So essentially we have a lot of partnerships with other organizations. They refer women to us. Through our website you can sign up to have an appointment scheduled to come in and get styled for these work appropriate clothing. Lots of referrals from happy other clients that have come in through Wings for Success. They refer their friends who are in need as well. It's really mostly referrals of happy.
And how would you describe the women who need the help? Are they low income, middle income? What's the situation that allows them?
Generally, it's lower income. Many of the women, it's the first time entering the workplace in their family, or maybe they've been out of the professional workplace for years and they're not really familiar with the layout now, how to dress or how to act. Sometimes, it's a situation where they're leaving in the middle of the night and they might not have anything. They might not have their clothes with them. So they need these clothes to go out on interviews and provide for their family.
And what do you tell them about the clothing? Is there a sort of a business standard that you apply to all the folks that come in, or do you tailor it to the type of job they're going after?
The volunteers that work with these women that come in as clients really try to get to know what kind of positions they're interviewing for, what industry that is, and then know what the styles of that industry is, what's appropriate workwear for them, and tries to find something that not only fits that career and industry, but also what those women are comfortable in.
And when you give this advice, do you also give advice about hair or nails or anything else?
Yeah,
makeup?
we do. We actually have many workshops. So besides just coming in for initial consultations and receiving these outfits, there's also a couple times a year Wings for Success provides workshops. And these things are on everything from makeup, sometimes resume writing. They're just confidence builders that add to the initial dressing consultation.
Is that a key part of this? That if the person going for the job feels like she is presenting herself well, that they're more likely to get it?
I think so, certainly. I mean, as a woman and just as a human being in general, I think when you look good, you feel good. So this helps build confidence. So you can go into an interview feeling good about yourself, which, you know, it comes across then.
And the other side of that table is that there's a person doing the hiring, and that person, I guess, is going to form opinions based upon his or her perception of who's in front of them, correct?
Of course. Obviously, you don't want to say, you know, people judge a book by a cover, but it certainly
They
plays
do.
a role into it. Yeah, unfortunately. So this is just providing them not only with looking the part, but also feeling it.
And do you have experience that this is working?
Certainly. You know, Wings has helped thousands of women in the local area, and we've follow up with many of the clients, and many of them have succeeded and obtained these jobs and are providing for their family and providing a living.
Now, are you giving the women one set of clothing, one interview clothing, or do you give them a week's worth of clothing?
Generally, they receive like 3 to 5 outfits. Certainly, they're welcome to come back in if they need more, but initially when they're set up, it's with 3 to 5 outfits that they can wear, you know, throughout the interview process and throughout the first week of their job.
And do you also find that they come back and say, I also now know, now that I'm getting my paycheck, based upon what you gave me, I now know what to go buy now that I can afford to buy something?
Certainly. The volunteers are very skilled, and they're great with working with the women to not only find what they're comfortable in, but what really looks good on them, what accents, you know, their best features to make them feel good and look good.
You have an event coming up, which is a fundraising event so that you can help many, many more women in the region. And it's taking place at Immaculata University.
Yep.
Why don't you talk about it? It's a fashion show, right?
Yes, it's a fashion show on March 21st at Immaculata University. Essentially, there's a fashion show where local boutiques and designers show their spring collections. We also have some of the clients walking in the runway show in a friendly little competition. We have style workshops, trend workshops, and a silent auction. So
Now,
it's a lot
Jennifer
of fun.
Lewis Hall is going to take part in that
Yes.
as well. Wingsforsuccess.org is where people can find out all the details about this and how to get involved on the event for the 21st or to support throughout the year Wings for Success.
Yes.
Now, you're based in Chester County, but you seem to be growing.
Yeah, we just opened a second location in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania.
And do you see plans to try to branch out farther and farther into the region?
Yes, certainly. It's something that, you know, as a board, everyone's talked about. We want to help as many women in the local area as possible.
What motivated you to get involved in this?
I think personally, Wings is such an important part in my life just because it's helping the local community. So it's someone's mom, it's someone's sister, it's someone's friend, it's someone that you run into at the grocery store, at church. You're not sending money or putting your efforts towards something that isn't helping locally here that you're not seeing.
A lot of people don't like getting help. What kind of reaction do you get from someone who maybe feels like that but sought your help anyway, made themselves go through this and say, all right, you know, I'm going to go ask them for this help?
Yeah.
And then they see that they got the job. I mean, what's that next meeting like with them?
Oh, they're, you know, through the roof. They're so happy. I think that's kind of a hesitation a lot of people have, is initially reaching out to Wings for help. No one wants to admit that they need help. But with Wings, the volunteers really make it easy, and by the end of it, they have a smile on their face, they're a lot more comfortable. It's building that relationship. I think that's so important. The volunteers genuinely care about helping these people.
Now, a lot of us don't like getting this kind of critique. So you're gentle with how you
yeah,
about
of
finding the
course.
best features, right? That kind of thing. That's good. Well, your hope for the future is what?
I think just to continue to grow and help serve more women in the local community is really what Wings is looking forward to doing.
Well, the fashion show is on the 21st. Patricia, thank you very much. And we're going to give information again on this. It's at Immaculata University. It's called Wings for Success Fashion Show. And wingsforsuccess.org is the best place to find out all the information. That's wingsforsuccess.org. And that's In Focus for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Steve Highsmith. Enjoy your weekend and have a great week ahead.